Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring in our bottom half side of the map. From Clan Ivanity Gaming, we have Yik, E-Y-K. I'm going to go with Yik. I'm not 100% sure. I'm assuming, since I know that ForsakeNXE is from the EU ladder, that Yik is also from the EU just ladder in general. High Masters level player, I am assuming, because I know that Forsaken is. He is our red Zerg in the bottom half side of Polar Knight LE. And we, of course, have ForsakeNXE, our long-standing addition to the just StarCraft world in general. He is from Clan InnoWin Esports and a high Masters level player on the EU server. Streams all the time. You should stop by Twitch just to scout him out. Doesn't get nearly as many viewers as he deserves, and it's just very entertaining just in general. He is our Masters level Terran, blue in the top half side of the map. Blue versus red tells me that it's on the ladder, and the ladder edition doesn't help out much from the Polar Knight. It's a nice map. I do like this map. This is deceptively small. You can wall this off with like a bunker and 3 supply depots, or 2 Evo chambers and a handful of queens. Maybe you need to throw in a spine crawler too, just to shore up every little hole, but it's still very tight. It keeps the Hellions out. It's nice. I do like it. It looks absolutely massive, but I think that the pixels like stop here or something like that for this guy, and then like stop here for this guy. So it's significantly smaller than it actually looks. And it looks like he agrees with me because he is taking a hatchery very, very quickly. 15 hatch, first thing first, coming out from him. And then Forsaken is banking up quite a lot of minerals too. It looks like he's going to be going for that supply, that command center first opening also. No gas coming out of him just yet. Hopefully see that soon, just because Reapers are very nice on this map. You do have a lot of high ground that you can kind of use and abuse. It's nice. It's nice to be able to get into your opponent's base, find out exactly what's going on. Barracks does come down first just to complete that wall off. Still missing the supply depot, but you can always reposition it a little bit and get out that addition later on. Maybe a tech lab, maybe a reactor. However, for either of those, you do need a gas, so the refinery does come down, and both players are progressing along that very traditional route. It looks like the Overlord's going to be hiding off to the north side, and I love these little cubby holes that they make for the Overlord. I like how personable it is, how it even has a little wall for the bastion for the Overlord to take shelter in. I love it. I love it so much that I usually leave my Overlords there to die for the inevitable Viking that's going to be coming out eventually. So the SCV scout from Forsaken is going to get in here, going to see that hatchery is number 1 on the billboard. Number 2, no gas geysers have been tapped in the main, which tells me that Yek is going to be moving towards a third base very, very quickly. He has banked up almost 200 minerals, moving down a handful of drones. Are they to saturate this base? Are they to build up another hatchery? I'm not 100% sure, but these are the questions that you have to ask. Double orbital commands coming up with the bunker on the low ground. Looks like he's going to be showing us exactly how you position this. I do not play Terran. I have no idea how they always get the bunker positioning right. So you have to build like 1 supply depot on one side, 2 supply depots on the other side. I forget. I think I might have been watching. I forget who it was, so I'm not even going to guess, but it was some Korean, and he would position the bunker over here and then like walk it over pixel wise to make sure he was doing it right every single time, because he was like learning one of those new maps that were coming out. It was very, very cool. In fact, that guy was doing some really, really clever stuff with the Reapers, showing me that with just 3 Reapers, with just 1, you can peck away at the queens, and then by the time you have 3, he was actually taking down queens with just Reapers. It was very, very micro intensive. It was very, very exciting, especially because keeping that queen number in check really opens the door for Hellion Harass. And speaking of Hellion Harass, we have a factory coming out. We have a reactor on that barracks, so maybe that's something that Forsaken is thinking about doing, especially considering the fact that the third base is going off to the far left-hand side. We're going to see a lot of creep spread connecting them, and in fact, the queen is working on that creep spread right now. Super, super important to keep that in check if you're Forsaken. Super, super important to keep that wide open if you're Yik. And, that's something he's working very, very hard on right now. He's got a designated creeper. He's got 2 of them, actually. 2 queens coming out. One of them is going to be waddling down, connecting the natural to the main, and then inevitably working its way up to the third so it can start doing its larva injects there. 4 queens, more than enough to handle the Hellions. However, 2 of them are going to be back kind of injecting larva until those Hellions actually show up, so I wouldn't be surprised to see another one on the production tab, maybe another 2. I like to go up to 6, especially whenever I see Hellions coming out from my opponent's base. 2 Hellions are out right now, another 2 on the production tab, and we can see that stim has already been started right now, and so Forsaken's moving towards that 11-minute 1-1 timing attack. Wouldn't be surprised to see some Evo chambers thrown down here, and by Evo chambers, of course, I mean engineering bay because we're talking about Terran. We do see second refinery being tapped, which adds to the idea that there is going to be a lot of upgrades. Evo chambers are coming down for Yik. Hellions have come down from Forsaken just to check out that initial third, but he is aware that the other possibility is present, so he's moving down to that other third, and we can see that the designated creeper is going to be protected by another queen. These queens haven't been softened up at all, so even though there are 4 Hellions here, I'm not 100% sure if Forsaken's going to stick around, even though he's gotten one of them down to around half health. He is succeeding in taking out that creep terminator, which is not to be discounted. That's why those Hellions are out there. A queen is a benefit. It is not why those Hellions are there. The Hellions are there to keep the creep in check. Make it so that she is focused. All these queens are focused on keeping the creep connected to the third, and make it so that this portion right here, which is kind of trying to spread out into the middle of the map, that's what you really need to check on. And so Forsaken agrees with me. He's moving down. He's checking out with this area. He's already lost this battle. The third is connected, and the queens are there. Queens aren't going to step off of creep to keep the Hellions in check. So those Hellions are patrolling, trying to catch these creep tumors into moving out to the far outskirts of the creep. Wow, even going for a scan, making it so that he can pick off those creep tumors. I'm not 100% sure if I agree with that tactic, just because you really have to deny the secondary creep spread. I mean, these queens come in, poop out the creep exactly where it was going to be anyway, and now that scan is pretty much discounted. However, with 6 Hellions moving in there, will they be focusing down the weak one? No, they did not. They focused down one of the healthy queens, and so that damage was not compounded. So now he just has 2 queens in the yellow rather than one of them in the deep red, or maybe even dead. However, this is just Forsaken biding time. He's keeping the queens distracted. He's keeping the Zerglings distracted, keeping them away from his front door so he can get his third. So he can get that 1-1 on the way, more than halfway done. Stim is already done, and we can see that combat shields coming up. In another 100 seconds, he's going to have those combat shields hitting around the 11-minute time. What else hits at the 11-minute time? The first round of medevacs. So we're going to have that first initial push coming out with those medevacs, with those Marines. It's going to be nice. It's going to be nice. And we can note that there's no more Hellions being added into the mix, because I think Forsaken's going to repurpose that factory. It could be that he's moved that reactor already over. My goodness, look at all these reactors being constructed. He's building another reactor on the factory, which tells me he's probably going to be moving over to Widow Mines to support his Marines. If he wanted to make more Hellions, there's no reason for him to move the factory initially. But no, the Widow Mines can come later because he's more worried about the Spire. So yeah, what does Yek do to get out of this bind right now? Well, he's not really in a bind. He's got a third he's very happy with. His creep spread's looking fantastic. The Hellions didn't really succeed in keeping that in check just because of the sheer volume of queens. But that's an investment from Yek. He invested a lot of minerals in getting those queens out, and that's something that stunts his tech just a little bit. Because of that, he's just now starting on this 2-2. He has metabolic boost out as well as centrifugal hooks halfway done. +1 starts immediately on the Spire, and 8 Mutalisks on the production tab. Bam! Just like that. Fantastic. You need 9 of them to one-shot a Widow Mine, but I don't think we have any Widow Mines out right now. Forsaken at that 11 minutes, look at that, 11:20. He's pushing out right now with a 2-2 on the way. 1-1 is done, Combat Shield is done, Stim is done, and he's got those first 2 medevacs, so this is a very intimidating push. However, Yek is ready for it. He's got the centrifugal hooks finishing in just a handful of seconds, 18 seconds, and this creep spread is so good that Forsaken really has to push very deep in order to get to any of the bases. I mean, the 4th base is not exposed at all. It's got deep creep. He's going to know if the push is coming from any direction. The only other recourse that Forsaken has is to load up these medevacs and do some sort of drop. This 4th base is just for this gas. Only for the gas, because I think Yek is going to be doing more of a Muta style, which really is very gas intensive. He's got his layer out. He's got his +1 already on the way from the Spire, so it's really not a big stretch of the imagination for you to assume that there's a heavy Muta play coming out. And with another 5 on the production tab, Spine Crawler over here on the right side is very clever, because it's really going to serve to shut down that drop, which is something we see from that heavy bio forces. 4 Widow Mines are out on the field. We can see that those Widow Mines are beginning to be added into Forsaken's composition. Huge, just very important, because it creates a safe zone. Right now the creep is the safe zone for the Zerg. The Widow Mine is the safe zone for the Marines. They're going to be able to retreat back into it as soon as they see the Mutalisk. The Marines, they realize that it's kind of a moot point. You really just trade evenly whenever it comes to Zerglings and Banelings. When it comes to Bile, both armies just kind of eradicate each other, and then whoever can remax the fastest wins. The secondary punch, the follow-through, are the Mutalisks, and those Mutalisks need to push in here whenever the Marines have absorbed all the hits from the Banelings and actually finish the Marines so that they can't get healed up by the medevacs. finish the medevac so that they can't retreat and heal up more Marines. Here comes a nice big push. Yik far outnumbering the Marine force, but again, the ground force, the Zerglings and the Banelings, not a lot left. But the Mutalisks, pristine right now. They were capable of pushing in here. The Widowmines did do a lot of AoE damage, but Forsaken, it looks like he's going to be pushed all the way back home. Nice Widowmine hit on the Mutalit ball, but just not enough Marines left to follow through on the weakened Widowmines. It looks like this third is going to get completely sacked. This is absolutely terrible for Forsaken. He was just a little bit too ballsy with that creep. He did push forward. He did have some nice Widowmines in the area. It looks like 2 of them are going to discharge on 2 different Mutalisks, cutting down that number down to a nice healthy 14, but that's still too much for Forsaken to actually deal with. 150 over 125 supply. So Forsaken almost lost his third completely, managing somehow to keep his orbital command alive, probably just because he was constantly reproducing those Marines. We see a lot of Marines around on the field right now. No Mutalisks at all, Marauders at all, which is something that's important to note. Marines are very squishy against Banelings. This is an army that's really going to get chewed up by those Banelings, so this is very micro-intensive. Earlier, I cast a game that had a lot of Marauders mixed into a composition that was going up against this composition from Zerg, and because of that, it was very robust and it was capable of absorbing a lot of Baneling hits that would normally completely flatten a force like Forsaken. Here comes the Mutalist pushing in, once again being pushed back by these 2-2 upgraded Marines. Do we have a 2 on the Mutalisks yet? No, we do not. It's just now getting started. Only about a minute into it. We still got about a minute and a half left to go. The medevac coming in for a drop on the south side, just outside of range of that spine crawler, is going to be succeeding in taking out the small number of Zerglings that were left to defend. However, is that enough to buy? No. There's no real reaction out of Yek. He only just now pulling his drones back. It looks like this is going to be a free Baneling nest. The Mutalisks are swooping in from the north side, but they're going to arrive just a moment too late, targeting down the Spire, which is working on that +2 upgrades, but now the Mutalisks arrive. Just the Spire... just the Baneling nest coming down, but ultimately that's a win. Don't have to worry about Banelings for the next 2 minutes or something like that. That's pretty important for Forsaken. He is going to be pushing forward with a nice scan to once again keep that creep into check, and it's important. The reason he's pushing up onto this high ground right here is because he can push south into the 4th or push west into the 3rd. And we can see that Yek is more closely defending his 3rd than anything else, just because there's also minerals there. The huge swell of Zerglings, huge swell of Banelings, really not a lot that Forsaken can do there. He succeeded in putting the creep back out of commission. However, just with this huge number of Mutalisks, there's really no stopping Yek. He is pushing forward once again, but with his ground forces completely eradicated, his Zerglings and his Banelings are gone. Again, that follow-through punch has to retreat because the resupply is just too strong for Forsaken. He is coming in with enough Marines that are going to be cost-effective enough, especially with 3-3 finishing right now. There's not... Yek just can't afford to stick around with his Mutalisks. He doesn't... I don't know how to put it. He doesn't win enough. He's winning each one of these engagements, but he doesn't win enough to make it so that his Mutalisks can stick around, and that's because there's no Marauders in this mix. It's pure anti-air. It's pure Marines. It's pure Widowmines. There's nothing in here that doesn't shoot up, and so anything on the ground that the Banelings and the Zerglings don't take care of is going to really chew up these Mutalisks, even though there's about 30 of them out right now, 35 of them. Oh my goodness, so many Mutas, and he's going to be so very cost effective. But even with the Overseer's detection, he knows that these 3 Widowmines, if they all discharge on those Mutalisks, that's half of his health instantly gone, and they're going to be so weak, so very delicate to these Marines. Even these 3-3 Marines, just a small number like this is enough to chew up a Muta pack that's been softened up by a handful of Widowmine strikes. So Yek is playing very cat and mouse. I totally agree with how he's playing this. I just wish he could be more aggressive. And I think that the thing is holding him back is his tech. He needs to go up to Hive. He needs to get out a Greater Spire. He needs to get out some sort of Ultralith Cavern. Yeah, awesome, fantastic, thank you. He's doing it. He's getting out that Carapace as well for his flyers. So he knows that he wishes that he could finish this right now. He knows he can't. He knows that Forsaken is just too tenacious. He's like a cockroach. You can't kill him. And so he's going to have to... He's in this for the long haul. He does have the economic advantage. He looks like he's shutting down a drop on the left side, but at the same time, a big push from Forsaken down into that gas mine. And it looks like he's going to succeed in taking out that hatchery if he wants to, but no, he's opting for the big spread. Here comes the Banelings and the Zerglings, but this time it's kind of a trickle. It wasn't the huge swell that we're used to. Oh, Oh, man, massive Widow Mine strikes down on those Mutalisks, and now the follow-through can't follow through, and instead the Marines get away scot-free while taking down that hatchery. So this is a big blow to Yik. Even though his economy really isn't that bad of a shape, he's still on 3 bases. His main is pretty much mined out, but he's got a 3rd base being built already down in the bottom left-hand side. This is big. I mean, this is a lot of gas, and look at what's the limiting factor right now in his economy. It's pure gas, and he was just going up to that hive. He was just going to start working on that tech. This is at the worst possible moment, best possible moment for Forsaken. Speaking of Forsaken's economy, it's running kind of dry too. Main's pretty much gone. Natural, it's looking kind of low. So Forsaken's thinking about getting his own 4th base on the right side. Check out that mini-map, because I'm not looking away from this. This is about to get swallowed whole by a bunch of Zerglings and Banelings, but wow, not a lot of Banelings. Again, that gas income, he's so dry right now. He's parched for that gas. He needs more of it. He realizes he needs more. He's rebuilding that 4th base. Hopefully he's going to stop producing more Mutalisks. I mean, he's up to like 40, right? 37 right now. He needs more Banelings than anything else, as well as to continue work on the tech. What is his upgrades on ground? 2-2 for the ground. Probably could afford to go up to the 3-3. Probably afford to start thinking about Ultralisks, because like I said, there's no Marauders in this mix at all. And I think that the thing that's holding him back again is that gas income. Ooh, the Zerglings and the Banelings pushing forward without the Mutalisks for support. Where are the Mutalisks? Oh, they're over here sacking the 4th base that Forsaken really wanted to supplement his income. 70 over 42 Harvesters right now, so still pretty strongly in the favor of Yek. However, remember, Yek's not using those drones to the best of his potential. He doesn't have that 4th base quite up and running just yet. It looks like the 3rd base is going to be going down. Forsaken playing a bit of a cat and mouse game with all those Zerglings, forcing them back, is going to get the kill on that hatchery. Where are the Mutas? They're swinging over here from the 4th. It looks like that. Oh, all the drones go down in that area. Oh my goodness. 27 to 47 workers killed. So Yek still a bit in the advantage, just because those Mutalisks are so very aggressive. He sacked several bases already. He sacked the 3rd, he sacked the 4th down here. But Forsaken's beginning to catch up, and every time he takes down those drones, he's taking down gas income too. We can see that bank that was almost 2K just a little while ago for Yek, it's only around 700 now. But Forsaken is in the opposite side of things. He's desperate for minerals. And you're thinking, Terran, drop down some mules, you'll be fine. Well, no, your 3rd base is almost completely dry. Look at this. It's, oh my goodness, totally dry. Natural, almost totally dry. That 4th base, which was going to be the saving grace, is just now being reproduced. It looks like the main is actually repositioning itself down there. He's probably going to be thinking about taking this one in a handful of seconds. I can only assume he needs minerals. He needs to be able to reproduce those Marines, only producing them 3 at a time, even though his infrastructure is in place to produce probably a dozen. Look at that. That's absolutely comical. The Mutalisks are doing what Mutalisks do, being very harassy. At the same time, Forsaken succeeds in sacking the 4th base, and he's pushing up here once again. Maybe he's going to be going for another snipe on that Baneling nest that was made again. These Evo chambers are pretty much dead in the water right now, not working on any sort of upgrades. The Mutalisks continue to harass, continue to take down some infrastructure. Right now it's just supply depots, succeeding in a pretty heavy supply block. The Marines do push forward, do succeed in taking down the Baneling nest. Oh, and immediately push forward onto the spawning pool. If they get that spawning pool, that's going to be a huge deficit for Yek. Not because he's going to miss the Zerglings too much. I mean, you just produce spawning pool again, you'll get the Zerglings again eventually. And he doesn't have a lot of minerals anyway, but more importantly, it significantly delays the Baneling nest again, because then you have to produce the Zergling, the spawning pool, and then you have to produce the Baneling nest. So now you're looking like a 5-minute delay for the Banelings that you get out here, and that's really the bread and butter that Yek has been using to survive these pushes from Forsaken. And yeah, he succeeded in taking down that spawning pool. That's a huge win for Forsaken, not just because he doesn't have to deal with the Zerglings, but also because he doesn't have to deal with the Banelings for an extended period of time. Major pickup for him. Big Widow Mines loss right here. I thought that one of them was going to go off on those Mutalisks, and I barely saved my statement, but it was pretty obvious. Speaking of Widow Mines, a lot of them positioned over here on the ramp, Forsaken trying to bait in the Mutalisks, but didn't really succeed in doing that. 2 of the Widow Mines do go down. This 4th base is in a world of trouble. Only a handful of Marines and Widow Mines are protecting them, but with those Widow Mines very, very quickly burrowing, I believe they've got that upgrade now for the drilling claws. Oh, one hit. Not enough to actually sop up those Mutalisks. In fact, it looks like those Mutalisks are going to be sticking around, but remember, these Marines are plus 3. Very, very cost effective against these Mutalisks, but wow, there's just so many. 30 of them still out on the field, only succeeding in taking out maybe 7 of them. We can see the Marauders are beginning to get added into the mix for Forsaken, just trying to burn through that 3k gas that he's got left over. I mean, what else are you going to do with that gas? The spawning pool just now being reconstructed. I don't know if it was sniped again and I just missed that. If I did, I'm sorry. I don't think I did. But just now being reproduced by Yek, probably because he was just so starved for minerals, didn't really have enough minerals to make it, or maybe he didn't think that he lost it. Maybe he just thought the only thing he lost was that Baneling nest. Forsaken, though, is burning through his minerals like no one else's business, producing those medevacs, and is really just chewing through that last small amount of mineral patches that he's got left. That 4th base went down again. He's really not using this one on the top right hand side. I'm not 100% sure why. It's probably because it would be impossible for him to defend. Yeah, he's going to take down that ice and then this ice on an army that the only reason he still has a base is because he's distracting these Mutalisks. The second he stops distracting these Mutalisks is the second those Mutalisks decide to sack his entire infrastructure. Oh my goodness, so many of those workers going down. 65 workers killed. There goes the big stint from Forsaken, but it looks like those Mutalisks are just a little too fast for those Marines. We can see the Marauder are handful of Marauders thrown into the mix. Maybe he was expecting some sort of an Ultralisk switch, or maybe he just wanted a little bit more of a robust army. Maybe he just wanted to burn through the gas. I'm not 100% sure. I'm all for using your minerals and gas to the best of your possibilities. The Baneling nest just now starting. Another minute for that. But it looks like Forsaken is trying to get his economy back to where it needs to be. I mean, both players are at almost 500 minerals each. Long distance mining going down on the bottom left hand side, and it looks like Forsaken is aware of this because he's done just a little bit of damage to it already. Those Mutalisks are having a heyday with the infrastructure over here, but this is just gas. This is something that Forsaken can afford just to completely lose. And yeah, he's pushing them back, but it's just because, you know, you don't want to lose an orbital command, especially because you want to be able to throw down as many mules as possible on your single mining base. And maybe he wants to reposition this. Maybe he could long distance mine just like his buddy down the bottom left hand side. So where are we? We've got a lot of Mutalisks out on the field for Yek, not a lot of anything out on the field for Forsaken. Oh man, it's been half an hour and my voice is dry. I made the mistake of running before I cast this, and so I was a bit parched whenever I came back. I had a whole glass of water. Thought I was good to go. Didn't realize it was going to be this epic. I should have known. Forsaken's doing a great job of keeping his Mutalisks, his medevacs alive. Those Mutalisks like to get in there and chew up the medevacs while the ground engagement is going on. But the fact that he's still got 6 or 5 of them up and he's got another 2 coming out means that the drop potential still exists. And with that, you know, you've got to be afraid. You've got to keep your Zerglings and your Banelings back at home, even though you're playing a field with your Mutalisks. What Yek would like to do is to have all of his ground forces in one area. But wow, Forsaken's scared because he thought the Mutalisks were swinging around to the north side of his base, doing a hot pickup of all of his Marines, just trying to drop them off there. But no, quickly repositioning them down to the south side to deal with the encroaching threat. Oh, getting cute with the burrowed Banelings. Oh my goodness. Those Mutalisks, Yek really wants to have a lucky Baneling bust on these Marines, try to get them to go up onto the high ground, try to get them to explode on impact with those Marines. There goes the stem. Will Forsaken take the bait? Oh, the scan! Oh, wow. I don't know. I honestly have no idea how Forsaken knew that. I mean, he was going up the hill. Maybe he expected there to be a bunch of Zerglings and Banelings here, and he didn't want to charge up and not be shooting at the Banelings and not be splitting his units. That's probably what it was. I sincerely doubt he expected burrowed Banelings there. I would love to have seen the burrowed Banelings down here, but in all honesty, that was just too close to Forsaken's fight. I think Yek did a good go at it, but man, Forsaken just with good game sense, good diligence there to make it so that it was very difficult for Yek to pull a fast one on him. And at this point, I mean, both players have been exchanging titanic blows with each other. This is absolutely my definition of epic. We have a 4th base once again going down, and this is turning into a bit of a slower game just because the economy is beginning to slow down, but that just reveals more time for the minutia to come over, for more time for the elegance of the micro, you know, being more careful with your mutas. Something I need to say about Yek though, being careful with your mutas, means that you ball them up. You click several times on the same location to get all of your Mutalisks to ball up onto one specific point before you try to take down these Widow Mines. If you try to attack them in a huge flight like this, when they're all spread out, one Mutalisk will always trigger the Widow Mine before the rest of the flock arrives and is capable of shooting the Widow Mine. And that means that the Widow Mine gets its shot off. Even though it goes down, even though you have the necessary critical number to take down the Widow Mine in one volley, the Widow Mine still is able to shoot off its volley, which is ultimately a big win for Forsaken. So Yek needs to be a little bit more diligent with his Mutalisks. I think that some of the strikes that he's been suffering, some of the hits that Forsaken's been getting in with the Widow Mines, is because of missed micro from Yek, and good positioning for Forsaken. I'm not trying to detract from that at all, but I am saying that that's something very, very important that Yek seems to be forgetting in the heat of the moment. I mean, these are huge engagements requiring massive amount of micro from him. It's still very, very high skill level is what I'm trying to say. Speaking of splits, I mean, look at this, already pre-positioned for the Bangling counterattack from the south side, as well as keeping a lot of anti-air Marines with the Widow Mines. And speaking of Widow Mines, wow, something massive happened to this. This is a huge smorgasbord of color to all of these Mutalisks, but they're quickly regenerating their health. At the same time, we've got 3 different drops going on, one at the main. Here comes the counter engagement from the Mutalisks. They are detracted back down into the main to shut down this drop. At the same time, the 4th has gone down from the long distance mining, and it looks like Forsaken has taken the high ground right next to the natural, and I don't know if Yek has enough to break this. I mean, with just the Mutalisks, he'd have to push in here against all of these Widow Mines. With 6 Widow Mines in that area, yeah, he just needs to shut down these drops, and it looks like he's pushing off to the top right-hand side. He's going to take out this 4th base. Will Forsaken retreat in order to... no, he's not. He's not even going to try to defend this at all. Looks like this 4th base is going to completely go down. Forsaken is going to get massively supply blocked, and with that, I think Forsaken has given up on producing anything from here on out. He's almost got enough minerals to construct another command center. Almost is just not quite there, and it looks like Yek is way too far away for building another hatchery. So I think we are now at a standstill. I think Forsaken's going to be able to just to pick apart the enemy base, and Yek is aware that he's not going to win a base trade scenario, so he is retreating very, very quickly and is going to be picking off any of these Marine straggling units which are trying to get... Awesome! He is making a command center. I wonder, 190 minerals? I guess he just had enough in SCVs from random SCVs holding minerals that he just turned them in to the 4th base, maybe that before it actually gotten taken down. However, let's look at all the... Okay, so this main is pretty much the center point for Yek's defense. He does have a handful of structures scattered across the map. I mean, a handful of extractors at old bases that he's got. Forsaken has that command center here, which tells me that he's really not going to be moving any of his units anywhere else. Darting in, trying to take down that hive. However, with the broodlings coming out, it's probably going to be enough delaying tactic for this last Marine to get caught up by these Mutalisks. Yeah, Yek is going to have to be very, very careful to defend his home turf. At the same time, he's just going to be poking, kind of scooping at the edges. Forsaken's awfully spread out, though. There's a lot of exposed edges for these Mutalisks to actually take care of. Like, just get within range. Does he have an overseer? He does. So he's got detection. He's going to be able to see if there's Widow Mines protecting these Marines. And since there's no Widow Mines there, he's going to be able to take them out completely. Creep spread is coming in from the low ground, or where did that come from? Come from here? I don't know. But it's important to get that, because if this hive goes down, he's going to have to protect these guys with some form of creep. He does have some drones left, but like I said, he doesn't have any minerals left in order to build something. I guess he blew through the last 50-some minerals on constructing something. Maybe it was a drone. I don't know. Oh man, Forsaken keeps suiciding in units trying to take down that hive, but that hive's not the only thing down there. There's plenty left, including just the extractor, which is going to survive even if there is no creep. The hive does go down, picking up the Thor, which is always funny, and it looks like the Mutalisks use that to their advantage to push in, just take out a handful more units. I'm going to switch off the production tab because we're not making anything anymore. We have 38 Mutalisks against just 20. Oh, he is balling up the Mutalisks now. Absolutely fantastic. No, see, there he didn't, and he did get the shot off from the Widow Mine, so that is super, super important. He cannot afford to take those hits, because every single time one of those Widow Mines goes off, that's a dead Mutalisk, every single time. And, that's just something that in a war of attrition like this, Yek cannot afford to take those losses. He has 6 Banelings, really not going to help him out too much. Yeah, if he got like a massive super awesome hit on all of these all these Marines. That would be fantastic. But let's be honest, that's totally not going to happen. Suiciding in a handful of changelings just to see exactly what's going on. The planetary fortress means that any battle that is going to be won for Yek has to be won in the air. He has to take care of every single one of those Marines and those Widow Mines, somehow keeping them away from the AoE of that Thor. At the same time, I don't like how Forsaken is leaving these Widow Mines exposed. You need to hide the location of these Widow Mines by, positioning flying units over them, maybe get these barracks over them, maybe get the medevacs over them, or just position your Marines by them. The Marines and Marauders stemming, taking care of those 2 extractors there. There are 2 more extractors down at the bottom left-hand side to where the 4th was. It looks like Yek cannot afford... Oh, he's sent off a handful of Mulisks to the top right-hand side just to start pecking away at the structures. But ultimately, these structures here are what keeping Forsaken in the game. He's aware probably that Forsaken is not mining in any way, shape, or form. It looks like the single Marauder is going to be taking care of those 2 extractors down on the bottom left-hand side. Remember that Yek is revealed right now, and Forsaken is not, because he has that command center as well as a handful of SCVs repairing it, I assume, for the incoming push. But since Yek does not have a overseer with this pack of Mutalisks, it looks like they're in a lot of trouble. Oh my goodness, he's pulled those Mutalisks away. He's pulled them away, which means that Forsaken now has an opening. He's got an opening so they can push into that main base, take them out. Remember, he also has to take down these 2 extractors and this extractor here for them to take it out. I think what Yek needs is to somehow goad Forsaken into pushing up into the main with a large enough force to make it so that he can actually take them out. The Marines are stepping in, taking down both of those spine crawlers. He only has a spawning pool and a baneling nest left. The creep tumor has somehow expelled itself down to the bottom left-hand side. I do not agree with that. He needs to get that creep tumor down here, because this baneling nest and this creep tumor are going to go down. Oh, those Mutalisks playing really close. Where are the Widow Mines? Okay, there are the Widow Mines. We can select them so we can actually see exactly their cone of attack. It looks like you can get off some pot shots on the planetary fortress. Everything is down with the exception of these 2 structures, I believe. Oh no, the extractors are still up. Okay, so creep needs to reposition itself so that these structures stay up, or he needs to sack them completely, just give them up for dead, and then protect this with his life. He needs to pick one, though, because Yek right now is kind of flying in a circular fashion around Forsaken, which ultimately is just letting Forsaken pick him apart one shot at a time. And I think Forsaken is hoping to present... Oh, that's neat. Check it out. He positioned his units directly over the Widow Mines now, making it so that the positioning of the Widow Mines is unknown to Yek, which means that hopefully those Widow Mines do get a lucky shot off on this Mutalisk ball. The Widow Mines are really the only thing keeping Forsaken in this game right now, because if those Widow Mines weren't there, even with 15 Marines, even with a Thor, that's not enough to hold back this huge volley of Mutalisks. Oh wow, the drop in the bottom left-hand side succeeded in taking out those extractors, and that means this is it. This is absolutely it, and their life is beginning to tick down. He agrees with me, finally, with the creep tumor. Needs to reposition that as soon as that cooldown is done. He is selecting it. He is coming down there. That spawning pool's definitely survived. Not sure about the baneling nest, but now Forsaken knows. He totally knows that the only thing down there are these 2, and he'll know whenever the baneling nest actually expires. With only 40 health left, yeah, that creep is not going to get there fast enough. Oh my goodness, this is so incredibly close. 80 supply to 40. Even with the supply discrepancy, Forsaken is still totally in this because he has those Widow Mines. I think that Yek could afford to leave with maybe a quarter of his flock off to the top left-hand side. He has 2 Overseers, so he doesn't need to keep his entire flock here right now. I think he's just produced too much of an opening for Forsaken. The problem with that is that if he leaves with half of his flock, maybe this is enough that if you suicide in there, you could maybe get that spawning pool. I'm not 100% sure. I think that's what's going to happen, though. With that Thor shooting down a nice volley of javelin lances just down on top of those Mutalisks, doing a lot of damage, softening them up for the inevitable push. I think the onus is on Forsaken. I think the ball is in his court. Yek could probably send off a handful of units up here just to take out the remaining structures here, but then ultimately you still have structures here that you have to deal with. Oh no! Yek rotating off to the north side. Forsaken pushing them down to the south side. There goes the stem. This game is over. The spawning pool goes down. Oh, and Yek. No. Why? Oh, again with the rotation. Did he think that he had like another structure around here? I don't know. Oh, that is so disappointing. I was really hoping for like a massive Widow Mine hit on these the Mutalisk thing, because both players were playing very, very carefully. I think that Yek was just a little bit I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I would deal with this situation. I think that I would be equally torn between protecting all of my buildings, like desperately trying to keep every extractor in one piece, and then also protecting my home base. But I think that the right decision would have been just to scratch every extractor, only protect this place, and then send off a handful of units up here just to pick off this thing. But even then, you still have the standstill. You still have to deal with this somehow. And there's no sneaking a drone out to start mining or anything like that because your hive went down. And you also don't have any units anywhere that can actually mine. I think he had 2 drones, right? Yeah, he did. Oh, man. So freaking close. So freaking awesome. Congrats to NON ForsakeNXE. Congratulations to you because you watched one of my videos. You're welcome. If you have a game you want me to cast, you can PM me here or